vlog family, today's gonna be a fun video because Dan and I are trying out one of those meal subscriptions. The one we are trying is Green Chef, which I had never heard of before. And before you watch this video and decide to click off because you're like, oh, this is a whole sponsored video, it's not. I'm not sponsored. Like, my channel is not popular enough to be sponsored. We are just giving this a try because I was curious and a friend sent us a code for 3 free meals and we only had to pay $10 in shipping. For those of you who have been around on this channel for a while, you will know I have been meal planning my dinners for an entire month at a time for years, and I am very consistent with it. For the most part, Dan and I, we rarely ever ask the question, what are we having for dinner? Unless we're asking it to remind ourselves what is on the meal plan already. So the idea of these meal plan, subscription boxes was never really that enticing to me as something to, help with meal planning, but I have always been curious about them because I know people who do benefit from them who may not know what to cook or where to start. And they're supposed to be really good as far as explaining instructions clearly and all of that good stuff. I am most familiar with the HelloFresh meal subscription box because that is what I see advertised the most often. I've seen some of my friends have the Blue Apron meal subscription box, and like I said, we are trying, it's Green Chef. I've never heard of it before, but we just got our box and it has 3 meals in it, all of which I am pretty excited about. There's flavor combinations and styles that we haven't really tried before, which is always exciting to try a new style meal. So I'm gonna pop open this box because I have no idea what to expect. I don't know how it's gonna be organized or how easy it's gonna be to understand everything. I don't know what the recipe cards are gonna look like. If there are recipe cards, I have no idea. So I'm gonna basically just bring you guys along for this video and you're gonna see what it looks like from scratch. I'll have some B-roll footage of us cooking the different meals over the next couple of days, and you'll see the finished product and what we think of it flavor-wise, and get both of our opinions, mine and Dan's, as to whether we think a meal subscription box like this is worth it to people who might benefit from it. All right, so you open up the box, and this is right on top. What is this? How to get started. Cool. Oh, that's just if you're ordering stuff for the first time. Okay. And then, ooh, you guys want some free boxes? I will throw this out there, which our friend Luke, who gave us one of these codes, told us this as well, and it's very important. If you are trying this out for the first time, sign up. You have to go through and pay and put in your credit card information, and then you can choose the 3 meals that you want, which I think that's how it goes with all of these subscription boxes. I don't know for sure though. And then you pick out your 3 meals, and once it you get the confirmation email, the very next day you need to go in and cancel the subscription. You will still get the box because this is exactly what we did, but you need to go in and cancel it the very next day. Otherwise, if you wait a week, it'll charge you the full $99. All right, oh yeah, okay, here's the recipe cards because this is what we ordered. All right, so we got this cheesy artichoke chicken sandwiches. That looks pretty good. Okay. Oh, yeah, that looks pretty clear instructions. That's encouraging. Okay. We also got this Middle Eastern beef and sweet potato bowl, which I thought looked pretty tasty. So there's that. Very nice, very nice. And this sweet chili garlic tilapia, because we do actually eat tilapia fairly often. And I thought that looked pretty tasty as well. All right, and it's encouraging. These instructions look fairly easy to follow. And now we have 3 recipes that we can keep forever, which I do think is a really cool perk of these boxes, is if you make something and you like it, you get to just have it forever. So if you don't keep the box subscription, you can still like go to the store and buy everything you need to remake these ingredients a bunch of times. Meals, not ingredients, meals. Okay, and then the last thing in here is more deals for advertisement stuff. Moving on to the food portion. Ooh, that was crunchy. Also, look at my nail polish. Look at how pretty it is. I love it so much. It's a green to teal, like multi-chrome. I love it. Anyway, back to the food. So here is what everything looks like. Okay, so it's all labeled pretty well, which is nice. And this, I mean, everything in here like feels pretty cold. There are ice packs at the bottom. Very nice. Okay, so it is just, this is like one meal. This is another meal. And this is the other meal. Cool. And then, Lambeau, are you interested in what we're doing as well? Say, did you get any dog meals? No, no dog meals, sorry. And then, massive ice pack. Ah, there's all the meat. Okay, cool. So it's not frozen, but it is definitely cold. Does it have, I was really curious about like expiration dates. It just says best used within 7 days of receipt. I don't know what that means. So there's our ground beef. Here's our tilapia, I am assuming, within 2 days of receipt. So I'll have to probably toss that in the freezer if we're not having it tonight. And then here is our chicken cutlets. Okay. And then it's just another giant ice pack right below there. All right, very cool. So I'm going to toss all of this in the fridge. And once we figure out what we want to cook for dinner tonight, I'll probably throw the other two meats into the freezer just to make sure that they stay fresh. And we'll probably end up cooking them like tonight, tomorrow, and the next day, just to make sure, because there aren't any like legitimate expiration dates on these that I saw. But yeah, I'm gonna do that once, and then I'll pop back in when we figure out what we're cooking for dinner tonight. I just saw something very interesting. I was getting ready to pull out this sweet chili, pull it out now, sweet chili garlic tilapia, because that's the one we're making tonight. And I was reading the little things, and we're supposed to be having the Middle Eastern beef and sweet potato and the cheesy artichoke chicken sandwiches. Here's Middle Eastern beef and sweet potato. This says chicken with peanut sauce. I am actually gonna pull that out real quick and just see if that's what it's supposed to be. They just put the wrong label on, or if we just got the wrong food. Okay, no, there's buns and kale. Okay, so that does look like what's in there is what our actual recipe card is, so that's good. I was a bit concerned for a second, not gonna lie, that they just sent us the wrong food, but we're good. I must have just had like the wrong like label sticker on it. I don't know, but yes, like I said, we are making the sweet chili garlic tilapia tonight. So this is what it's supposed to look like when it's done. Here is the bag. The tilapia is in the fridge. And I already put the chicken and the beef for the other two recipes in the freezer just to make sure that they stay fully fresh, because it says use within like 7 days of the receipt. I don't know what that day is. I don't know what that means. So I'm just putting them in the freezer. We're gonna get to making this and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And then we'll talk over how we liked it afterwards.
say that was pretty successful.
Overall, Dan and I, we ate. It was really good. There are no leftovers. We were talking and making different observations about it. One of the things that I didn't mention before was the servings that we ordered was like 2 servings, so we're eating for 2 people. So it does not afford any leftovers. Everything you cook is put on the plates, and if you're hungry enough, you eat all of it, which we did. Dan was making a good point that they're roughly like restaurant-sized servings, which you saw the plates. I mean, they're pretty good sized plates, and you saw how full it was. Yeah, start to finish, it took us, I would say, about 20 minutes altogether to cook everything. The jasmine rice taking the longest, which the jasmine rice for both of us was the part we were most impressed by, as simple as it is. But it's because we always just cook with regular white rice.
Because we're cheap!
And the jasmine rice, like, it is a white rice, but it has such a distinct flavor to it, and it's really good. And I don't know if having, like, the white part of the scallion cut up and sauteed into it made that much of a difference, or adding the salt into it made that much of a difference, but it was really good. So I had also told Dan that one of the things, like, it gives you the ingredients on the front of this, and like the amounts of everything. And one of the things I had mentioned was the sweet chili garlic sauce that is that was on top of the fish, that comes in its own little packet, like already mixed and made, and all you do is heat it up and add a little bit of butter to it. And it was a really good sauce, but they don't break down what was in it or how to make it from scratch on your own. So if that was something we wanted to make again, we would have to kind of Google and find a recipe that we could make from scratch. Or
Some equivalent.
Yeah, or just like go out and try to find where we could like buy it in like a jar or something, or a bottle.
Yeah.
We could. Very clear instructions, fairly beginner friendly. It's mostly just dumping things in.
Yeah, it assumes that you have some basic kitchen utensils on hand, from, a sharp knife to a cutting board to
olive oil,
butter,
pans, and,
right, salt and pepper, saucepan, pans for cooking the rice. But I mean, also to the point, we had pan fried the tilapia, as you could see, but this could also just as well have been cooked in the oven if you wanted it to. That's not an issue there.
Yeah, that would have been really easy. You just salt and pepper it and then put it in the oven at like 350 for like 15 minutes. I think is about all it would need.
Yeah, it would certainly get it cooked all the way through. You wouldn't get anything like a sear on it.
Right.
Which, I mean, if that's what you're going for, great.
Right.
But you have options.
Yeah. And that then you would pop in the oven the same time you got the rice, lowering the heat and turning on the timer for the rice.
Yeah.
You would put the tilapia in the oven at the same time, so they were both done at the exact same time.
Right.
And you'd be good to go. Pretty impressed. We made the tilapia first because that was, of the 3 recipes, the one we were least excited about. So we're like, let's get the one we are least excited about out of the way. Of course, it's the fish one. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Like, it was really good. It wasn't something that, like, as we were eating it, I was like, we didn't need to, like, try this because this is really basic. But it was like, okay, yeah, no, these are good flavors. These work together well. I could see how we could incorporate this into our, like, regular rotation of meals.
One of the things that it won't instruct you on, that you'll have to learn from experience, is just salt and pepper proportions.
Oh,
That may sound a little simple, and it's a good thing on the one hand, because that's the sort of thing that you want to be able to have some kind of control over. How salty do you want it? How spicy do you want it? But it's also the sort of thing, as far as the instructions are concerned, it's not going to be really specific. So you have to kind of feel your way towards how much salt and pepper you want to use on your fish, how much salt and pepper you want to use in your stir fry. It's not going to tell you, and it's something you just have to learn, sometimes through trial and error.
Yeah.
When in doubt, you can always err on the the lighter side, and then go heavier if you feel like it needs it later.
Pretty solid first recipe. So we'll probably jump back in then on Saturday. So in a couple days, we'll jump in for the next meal. So unlike the first dish that we did, this is actually going to provide for a little bit of leftovers or potentially extra servings, which is very good. Overall thoughts, I think this recipe was a success. I would not say it was as much of a success flavor-wise as the sweet chili garlic tilapia that we did in the last meal that you saw. We were talking about it when we were eating it. It's called a Middle Eastern, beef and sweet potato, blah, blah, blah. Neither one of us have a ton of experience with Middle Eastern, flavor profiles. I think I sort of just assumed it would be more bold flavors and stronger flavors, and it was fairly mild, in our opinion, which Dan had made a good point about why that was.
Yeah, when it comes to recipes in general, if you're wanting to try and create flavor profiles that appeal to a wider taste or a wider range of taste buds and sensitivities, you're usually wanting to try and aim for a happy medium, which usually means whenever you're reading a recipe, more often than not, the flavors are delivered in such a way that they're not going to be overpowering, so that if you want stronger flavors, you can usually err on the side of excess to be able to try and push those bold flavors out, so that you have something that's, richer, more forceful. The aromas are it's more aromatic. That's the word. So with this, it remains true both for whether you're making something through a recipe that you just picked up in a cookbook, or if you're doing something like the Green Chef, or any of these Blue Apron, you name it, that you're probably going to have the same effect. Where the flavors will be sort of less intense to cater to a wider audience. Which is fine. Dan did go back for seconds because just to use up the sweet potato and have a little bit more of the mixture, and he experimented a little bit with adding extra cumin in there, and he said that he thinks that did help. We like really intense flavors. We kind of tend to lean away from foods that are more bland, but we know that with a meal service like this, you can't have only intense flavor. You have to have a lot of middle ground flavor profiles, so that's totally fine. That makes sense. We are pretty sure that the 2 packets of feta was an accident, and that we were only supposed to get 1 of those packets of feta because Dan alone used about half of the 1 packet, meaning if I was also eating the feta, we would have ended up just using mostly the 1 full packet. So I do not think that we were supposed to get 2. I think that was just kind of an accident, which is fine. It's better than them completely forgetting an ingredient or something. But yeah, overall good. This is a recipe we will hang on to for sure, but we'll probably tweak it and do some other, try to add a little extra flavor to it. We were talking about maybe trying to add another vegetable into it, to cook into it for a different, flavor or texture that way. Carrot.
Carrot would be really good.
Carrot would work.
Carrot would be good.
And for any of you Middle Eastern people watching, I hope that's not offensive to say that. If you're watching this and you have any suggestions about how to be able to maybe take a recipe that's more like Americanized and to make some of those corrections to bring out more bold Middle Eastern flavors.
Yeah.
Please, tell us. We're pasty white folk. We don't know what we're doing. But yeah.
All right, with that, let's jump into the last recipe. All right, we literally just finished dinner, but I wanted to film this while it was fresh in our minds. You saw all the footage of us making it and how it looked. I feel like my camera lens is very foggy. Maybe it's not, and I'm just imagining it. I think it's because that light's on.
Oh, could be, yeah.
Yeah, overall it was really good. This is probably the smallest serving of the three, arguably. Like, it might be a little more substantial than the fish, but the fish also had a pretty generous bed of rice and vegetables.
Right. With a vegetable offering there, like with kale, I mean, it takes up a lot of space, but it's not as filling because the leaves are so expansive.
Right.
And you're not treating it at all.
Right.
You're not reducing it down to anything. And so yeah, I would say probably of the three, this was actually, as far as its offering, is probably the smallest portion.
Yeah. Something else I'd also mentioned to him, though, was that this recipe was also, in terms of like making it again just by following the recipe and like getting all your own ingredients and doing everything from scratch, like this was probably of the three the easiest like remakeable recipe of the three, just because of how simple everything was. And it was very simple. The other thing that I had told him was that, or that I was saying, was that this recipe of the three, I think, had the best flavor pairings as far as like the entire cohesiveness of the dish. The kale salad, Dan expected it to be bitter because it was just raw kale leaves. But we think that between the dates, obviously making it much sweeter, having a much sweeter bite in there, and also the basil, is it pistuo?
Pistuo is the Greek word to believe.
Oh.
Yeah, but pistou, Pistou.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. If you know, please let me know, because we have no idea. But that also, we think, probably helped to sweeten it just a little bit. And so that flavor of in and of itself was really good, and a really nice, fresh, sort of sweeter, lighter bite. And in the sandwich, the artichoke mixture that was on it was essentially spinach and artichoke dip minus the spinach, Dan had said, which...
We're not complaining.
It was really good.
Yeah.
So that then made for a much heavier bite. Plus you got like the strings of Parmesan as you pulled the sandwich away from your mouth. It was really good. We are still like a little hungry because today's been kind of crazy and this was not like super filling, but it was still very, very good. So our overall thoughts on not just like Green Chef specifically, but just like the food meal delivery services as a whole.
As far as we know it.
As far as we have only tried Green Chef. That is the only thing we can speak of from experience. I assume that all of them are fairly similar. Correct me if I'm wrong. For us personally, it doesn't make a lot of sense. as far as only getting 2 servings. Like when we cook with leftovers in mind, so we cook much larger portions. That way I am not having to cook something every single night. I usually only cook like 4 times a week. So, dinner, that is. So for us, this wouldn't make a ton of sense because it would force us to then cook more to fill in all of those gaps from not having leftovers on all of these meals. I think if you are just starting and you are just learning to cook and you are wanting to learn and get better, but you really have no idea where to start, you don't know what recipes to search for, you aren't like used to going to the store and like buying a bunch of ingredients, I think this, if you have the money for it, because it's not cheap, if you have the money for it, I think this is like a fantastic option of giving this a go. And it'll get a couple recipes under your belt and give you sort of that confidence to try things.
Do you remember in any of the ordering where we're navigating through Green Chef, if it said anything about basic kitchen utensils?
I don't remember, and that's actually something that I thought about as well, because on these like recipe cards, the front, right on the side, it says things like what you'll need.
Okay.
And it has a small pot with lid, large saute pan, large nonstick pan, medium bowl, measuring cups and spoons, cooking oil, butter, salt and pepper. And that changes slightly from like recipe to recipe, but for the most part, like that's kind of the gist. And that wasn't something that I looked at when we were looking at the recipes on the website. If they listed those things that you would have to have, that would be something to consider, and I would hope that they would list them, but I didn't even think to look if they had a spot to list them.
Right. The ease with which that you're going to be able to successfully cook these types of recipes depends to a greater or lesser degree on the quality of tools that you have.
That is true.
There's a lot more work that goes into something like this if you've got junky knives. And a frying pan that everything sticks to.
Right. It's going to make it unnecessarily harder.
So that's the other thing to remember. I mean, it's easier for us because we made it even before we got married as a part of our wedding shower, Pampered Chef wedding shower.
Which was great.
Which was
we got
great.
So many good tools that we still use almost 8 years later. It's fantastic.
Right. And that has helped make the chore of actually cooking these meals a lot less toilsome because you're working with good stuff. Stuff that delivers and works well again and again and again and again and again.
And it's so funny because we were actually talking with our friend who gave us this like coupon originally to try this out, and he had told us that he was buying it just for himself, so he was getting the 2 servings. But he had told us that he actually stopped his subscription because his idea of a single serving and Green Chef's idea of a 2-person serving was like the same amount. So he said for him, he was buying 2 helpings, but eating it as if it was 1. So that's also something to keep in mind. If you are the type to eat a lot of food and you have much larger portions than like the plates you've seen us make, and you're making it just for yourself, like you might not have leftovers like you thought you might. So just something else to keep in mind. But overall, I think it was a really fun experience. I'm very glad that we tried it. I think if in the future another one of our friends sends us a coupon to try one of these for free, it might be fun just for the sake of getting some new recipes.
Yeah. And to Green Chef's credit, we had no issues with the quality of ingredients that they supplied us with.
Right.
Everything was great.
Everything was great. Yeah. The only 2 mistakes would be the extra bag of feta and the sticker on today's meal being the wrong sticker.
Right.
Which the ingredients were all fine. Like all of that was totally fine. So it ended up working out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like quality was great. The only thing I was unsure of, like I had mentioned at the beginning, was with the meats, it didn't have like an actual like calendar date of when it needed to be used or frozen by. So if you weren't going to be making the meals like right away, it made me a little uneasy as far as it said to use within 7 days of receipt. So that's why I froze the meats and we just rethawed them when we were ready to use them, because I was not sure and I wanted to make sure we weren't eating spoiled meat. So thank you guys for following us along on this adventure of trying this meal kit service. Who knows? Maybe one day in the future my channel will grow enough and I'll actually be able to be sponsored by one of these guys. We shall see. Maybe I'll get the opportunity, but they'll watch this video and be like, nope. We'll find out. Who knows? But I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and hang out with us for more future cooking related or sewing related or vlog related content, whatever I happen to post on any given week. Or dog related content.
Yeah.
Lambeau. All right. Have a great day. Bye.